Howdy, welcome back to the shop. Hey, today we're still on a little XY table project, pardon my reach. And I'm trucking along here. I've got my lead screws sort of made. Piece 3/4 tin all thread. My nut, where'd it go? I've got a nut in here for this part of the XY table. And this is how I made the nuts. This is just a 3/4 tin coupling nut welded on a piece of 1/2 inch plate. This is nominally an inch, takes an inch wrench. So I'm nominally 1 inch from center to face. Works for me. There will be eventually 2 bolts through holding this to the plate, and then 1 oil port right in the center to where you can oil the nut, and then a oil passage inside the nut. I don't know if it matters, but I'm going to do it. This is one of my bearing blocks for the end. Okay, this is just a piece of 1/2 inch thick steel, turned round, hole in the middle. They are indexed and marked because, well, they have to be. Here's the washer that fits it. Washer goes on this side. But the holes are a little bit bigger, or too big. It's got a little bit, 10, 15 thousandths to where I can waller it around and get everything lined up without any, if we're running crooked like so with our lead screw, then things are going to bind. We got to be reasonably straight. Okay, this grease zerk here is not for grease, it's for oil. I use let me just get it. This is what I use for my whey oil. This is a chainsaw bar tip oiler. And it just pumps and it squirts in about, I don't know, a cc of grease. But these fit a Zerk really good. And the great thing about a Zerk versus a 1/4 inch ball oiler is they stick up and you can just wipe them off, which in this case is great. I don't have to worry about crud getting down in there and then cramming oil. So it's got an 1/8 inch oil passage coming out through the bottom down here, and a 5/64 hole through it to let a little oil come out on the thrust washers. And the thrust washers are just 7/16 grade 8 washers. They may have been a little extra thick, I can't remember now, but they are a little bit extra hard. And a 7/16 grade 8 will be about 505, 504 ID, give or take. I mean, they're just stamped out, but they're just about 1/2 inch ID. And this shaft is about, I turned it down to pretty close to 1/2 inch on the ends. So that makes up my thrust washers. And here's my hand wheel. This started off as 2 pieces of 1 inch plate. I just torched it out, drilled a hole in it, welded them together, and then turned this out of it. The other hand wheel I think I'll make out of aluminum. This was a lot of work to make this. Had some bad chatter when I was trying to get in there with my little old boring bar and clean it up. But anyway, this has got a 6mm set screw in here that pushes down on this little bitty brass bullet, little follower. So what this does is the flat side of this pushes again a flat on the shaft to keep my hand wheel locked to the shaft. I want, if something goes very wrong with this, since this hand wheel is so heavy, it's kind of a flywheel, which I wanted a heavy hand wheel. For me, it makes getting a smooth feed a lot easier. I don't really like aluminum hand wheels. I like brass hand wheels or steel ones or cast iron. But I got to thinking, if this lead screw binds up somehow or another, and especially if this is under power feed, and this thing's on like a rapid traverse, and something binds, I want this flywheel to be able to slip on the shaft. So that's why I did that. And I just filed a flat on here. I might come back and file that a little deeper so that I've got a better purchase, but this works. So what I aim to do here this is the bushing or bearing block for the other end. I've already got my hole in there for my grease zerk. So my bushings are just made out of, this is a piece of 3/8 brass pipe. The OD on this is about 689 thousandths, something like that. And the ID is just a hair over 1/2 inch. Maybe 503, 502, something like that. My shaft is just a hair under 1/2 inch. And this is just taking up the slack end. There's no thrust on this. If it's got a little bit of slop in it, that's acceptable. And I actually want it to have extra play in it. I don't want this to be a real smooth running fit. I just want it to not flop. So we'll get over here at the lathe. I've got my little old boring head set up in the tailstock, using it the wrong way. And we'll go ahead and bore this thing out. I need to take it to 680, probably 685 thousandths, 680 thousandths, something like this, because I want this to be a good hard press fit in there. I want to see if I can maybe shrink this down just a hair by pressing it. So we'll go over at the lathe. So here we go. Let's back this thing back off. Now I've got my Gibbs screws down here in this boring head tightened just snug so that I can still adjust this thing without having the Gibbs screws locked down. It's not like we're spinning this boring head 1,000 RPM, so I'm not concerned about anything like that. So we're just going to keep it going and chewing. And I usually don't use compressed air around these lathes and stuff, but I don't like the idea of chips being up in there while I'm trying to cut. Let's go about a 1/4 turn. Well, I'm going to let you rejoin me here in a little while. This is kindly boring. Well, we're getting awful cotton picking close. I think I'll make one little old spring pass in here. Ooh. Cut more than I thought I was going to cut. Whoop, wrong way. Okie dokie here. Okay, that's, let's see, 700, 680, 689 thousandths on that. There's 700, 690, 6. Six 685, 4, 3, 2, about 682 thousandths. That'll give me about a 6 or 7 thousandths press fit. I'm going to go ahead and stick a chamfer on this. We'll go over to device and do a little squeezy squeeze. Now here's where having a date press would be awfully cotton picking handy. But we do the best we can, don't we? Here we go. Dopey. There we go. Now the thing about red Loctite is it doesn't cure until it doesn't have no air. So it can sit there, that stuff sit there on my vise for half an hour, maybe an hour, and it's still wet. But as soon as it ain't got no air, that stuff starts cured. And as soon as it ain't got no air and stops moving, if it's in a press fit, it's cured, it's over with. So I'm going to get my hacksaw and saw off the edge or the extra, and then we'll put it back up on the vise, or on the lathe rather, and face it off and go from there. Well, there we go. Come on, baby, focus. Got to get my oil hole drilled back down through there, but I think it'll work. Well, that's all for now. Y'all drive safe. Watch for deer. Where did I put that cotton picket drill bit?